welcome to this edition of the Clyde and Lomond Heritage Podcast with myself, Paul Murdoch, and
myself, Robert Ryan.
And today we're going to, what we're going to do, Rob?
We're going to have a wee look at Loch Lomond and in particular its islands.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with a quote for you,
All right.
Paul. I have seen Lago de Garda, Albano, De Vico, Bolsena and Geneva, and upon my honour, I prefer Loch Lomond to them all.
Right.
Well, Paul.
You speak that all the time, huh?
I do. I'm from Helensbury, you see.
Just putting on a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Aye.
That was Tobias Smollett in his novel, The Expedition of Humphrey Clinker. And I think Tobias Smollett was quite a posh guy. So yeah.
So you gave us it in his accent. Okay,
yeah,
got you.
Indeed.
Okay, the loch is 71 kilometres or 27.5 square miles. Loch Lomond has the largest surface area of any inland body of water in Britain.
Right.
36.5 kilometres in length, outdistanced only by Loch Awe and Loch Ness.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the northern half is under 1.5 kilometres in breadth and broadens out at the bottom, the south part, to 4.5 miles. At its widest point, the loch reaches a maximum depth of 190 metres or 630 feet.
And we've said in a previous podcast that that's as deep as the North Sea.
Yeah, exactly. Any mariners out there, that's 105 fathoms. So. Of all Loch Lomond's 39 islands, Inchmurrin is the largest at 287 acres, followed by Inchcialloch, which is about 185 acres. Inchtavanach, 155 acres, and Inchcialloch, about 140 acres.
I took this photo of Inchmurrin on a clear day in September from my canoe.
Right.
It's one of the most picturesque and most interesting of the islands. And what I always found in the canoe, it was great taking photos because you get that unusual angle. Mm-hmm. It's as if it's right on the water.
Right.
And that's what I really like about that photo.
That's nice.
But Inchmurrin, I don't know if you know this, Paul, but the island of St Mirren. Mm-hmm. So the guy who was the patron saint of Paisley and gave the football team its name, it was originally spelt Mirrin,
right.
And he had a church there.
Right.
It has a rich, if rather violent, history. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're on Inchmurrin, you can lose yourself and not see any loch in among the trees.
Right.
So it measures 1.5 miles by approximately 1/4 of a mile. Mm-hmm. And this photo is another one I took of Inchmurrin on a cloudy day, and that shows you the difference in the aspect sometimes of...
I've gone across in a boat a few times and it can be quite rough.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the loch can turn quite nasty.
That's right.
Especially that wide part.
If you're going to Inchmurrin in a boat or a canoe, the best place to start is Duck Bay because you've got your parking there and also it's absolutely fine to set off from there and that's the best place. For some of the other islands, the wee hamlet of Aldacly is probably better, you know, for the likes of Inchtavanach and such like.
Now, it's formerly a deer park for the Dukes of Montrose, I believe, who had a hunt lodge there. I think they built it in 1793. And they maintained a gamekeeper and his family there, and 200 deer. And that was recorded in 1800, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are ruins visible of Lennox Castle, probably built for Duncan, the 8th Earl of Lennox, whose seat was Balloch Castle at the south end of Loch Lomond.
They moved from there to the...
Yeah, because I think... the safety of an island, you know, the extra security that afforded.
And there had been plague as well, so I think they had, like COVID, they wanted
isolation. Yeah, keeping it. But the castle was probably a hunting lodge for the deer park established on the island by King Robert the Bruce, the first of Scotland. Mm-hmm. Robert the Bruce in the early 14th century. Mm-hmm. So there's a wee photo here of the ruin of Lennox Castle. That's about all that there is left of it. Yeah.
I mean, I've been to visit that. It's actually worth going up. It's just behind the restaurant. The hotel,
that's right, yeah.
Up in the kind of high point.
I've been there myself,
There's still quite a bit of the ruins left.
Yeah.
And I think it was 1417, Ian Colquhoun of Luss was actually, you're saying it's a violent place, he's actually killed there by robbers. Sir John Colquhoun of Luss, the governor of Dumbarton Castle, was murdered at Inchmurrin as well in 1439. So not long after, during a raid led by Lachlan MacLean. Mm. So,
Yep. And you can see here the photo, which is from the sandy beach at the head of Inchmurrin. And in 1617, I don't know if you know this, Paul, but James VI made his only return visit to Scotland after becoming King of Great Britain, and included Inchmurrin in his itinerary to go hunting. Lord Lennox wrote to the custodian of the island on the 23rd of July, 1617, asking for food to be prepared for a good number of men with sharp stomachs.
Sharp stomachs. It's a strange way of putting it into it.
Probably a reference to the hunting trip.
So it was actually kind of inhabited from time to time by Rob Roy McGregor. He invaded the island, I think, in fact, a few times. At one point, his men came to control all the boats on the River Endrick and Loch Lomond, which were later used to remove cattle from Inchmurrin. So he would say they were always stealing cattle from each other.
Yeah, it was a way of life. It was, Rob Roy, who you've mentioned, that he's got ties to at least 3 of the Loch Lomond Islands, and we'll talk about that later. Not far from the ruined Lennox Castle sits the Inchmurrin Hotel, which you mentioned. The hotel, and indeed the island, has been owned by the Scott family for over 70 years. During the summer, weather permitting, if you phone the hotel, they will pick you up at the Mid-Ross Jetty, adjacent to the Arden Roundabout, if you would like to have a meal and
refreshments.
Yeah, refreshments. And in the process, enjoy a spectacular view over the loch. And I must say that I go to an annually meeting club to the Inchmurrin Hotel, and last year, the meal that we had was absolutely superb. They've got a great chef there. So
I've been once with the Salmon Club.
The Salmon Club, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's quite a wee expedition, that. Tell us, what about this nudist colony rumour and things?
Well, it's what Inchmurrin is renowned for.
All the locals, that's the only reason they know it.
That's right. The Scottish Outdoor Club
is that the
holds a nudist colony and events there.
Is that the meal you're at then? The Scottish Nudist Club meal?
Their 26 itinerary includes, and no laughing at the back, please, April the 3rd to the 5th, the season opening. May the 22nd to the 24th is a music weekend. June the 26th to 28th, a barbecue weekend. What could possibly go wrong? And August the 21st to the 23rd, a photography weekend. I'm sorry to laugh. And I have read that there's...
Is that a long distance lens photography lens from the show from the
Well, I did on October the 2nd to 4th. They've got their closing weekend. You
shouldn't laugh. It's very good for your family.
In my research for this, I did read about the why they do it, and that nobody should be embarrassed and all that sort of thing. I have to say, I don't think
I've done it myself. I don't. I'm not in that island, but it's nice to swim free. You know what I mean?
Oh yes.
I've made sure there's nobody on the planet watching me. But it's nice. Yes, I've got a story there, but I better not go into it.
Moving right along here.
Yeah, go on. Yeah. Inchcialloch is probably one of my favourites, actually. The most accessible islands as well.
Yeah.
From Balmaha, the boat runs every day from May to November. From the McFarlane's Jetty, as I said, Balmaha. And you can explore this, a remarkably historic island.
Yes, it is.
There's lots of things really happened there. I mean, it's lovely just to walk around. And in May, not far from where we are now, the bluebells are just
that's right,
stunning.
Yeah.
And all sorts of things to see there.
And the smell of wild garlic.
The smell of wild garlic, yeah. It's just not even just from your breath, it's just like... A wee bit strong this morning, Robert, sorry.
Okay. I had a curry last night, that'll be why it is.
It is as well. It's well to check the operators the day before you plan the trip, just to make sure you can get across, get back safely.
That's right, and if it's going to be a wee bit choppy or something like that.
And I've seen paddle boarders go across, because it's a very short kind of distance.
It's so short, and even though the McFarlanes don't particularly appreciate... they don't appreciate people launching boats from there or using their jetty unauthorised. No, at Balmaha. But even then, you could always do it from the shore at Balmaha anyhow.
And then I'm going to show you now, in fact, Robert, this nice picture of the bluebells there. And I'll put one that I took as well here, just after his. Because it's such a great sight there, and I've actually taken some shots of deer there as well, the fallow deer. We'll probably come to that in a wee bit. Inchcialloch means Island of the Old Woman, or the Island of the Hooded Woman. St. Kentigern went to Scotland from Ireland to preach and spread Christianity. And the island is thought to be named after her, really, you know.
Yes. And it's been named for a long time. One of the, I hope the person that I'm referring to here doesn't hear me saying this, but I'd heard of a lad who'd named his son Cialloch.
Right.
And he hadn't realised that it meant old woman.
Got you, yeah.
Although Cialloch does sound a nice name, but perhaps, you know, when the context's known. But
she was there. I think she was there from the early 8th century, so a long time ago.
I think there's still some remains of the church there. There is some remains of the church there.
Yeah, and many hundreds of years of used as a graveyard as well. There's lots of great wildlife surrounding the place. You get to see ospreys in and about the island as well.
Yeah, the main centre for the ospreys is Inchmurrin, right enough, which we'll speak about later.
Yeah, but I have seen them off of Inchcialloch as well.
Yeah, and you'll almost certainly, if you don't see deer, you'll certainly hear them in the rutting season, because they, you know, especially fallow deer, but I believe there's roe deer as well.
Yeah, there will be.
And Inchcialloch also was used as a hunting forest since the reign of Robert the Bruce, and that's the second time his name's come up, and it will come up again in another of the islands. The narrow crossing is very shallow, making it an easy passage for the deer. The deer swim across. Yeah. You know, so they can ford it.
I think I said earlier on, I think Ralph Carson put a small video clip of the deer actually swimming at dusk.
It's a magic sight.
Straits. It's different. We'll talk about that later on.
Yeah. I've seen deer myself, swimming between Inchmurrin and Inchmurrin, and it's a magical sight.
For anyone taking a journey to Ireland, boat drops you off and picks you up on the east side of the island. It only takes a few minutes from Balmaha.
I think the last time I went in the boat, it was a $5, but it's a few pounds.
It used to be a post boat, I think.
It did, but I don't think that is the case now. You get dropped off at the east side, and you walk down the central path to Port Bon. Okay. That's the beach, and it's a beautiful beach, and it's often very quiet.
I had a few picnics there, and it's actually, be very careful, but you can kind of paddle and swim a bit there. But always be careful in the water.
Yes, there's a ranger hut there and an official campsite, but you do have to book if you want to use the campsite. It's an official campsite. So the last burial at the Clan MacGregor burial site in Inchcialloch was in 1947, but you can still look at the graves, and they make very interesting reading. Many years before that was the burial of the occupant of this grave in the photo here, and he was Gregor MacGregor. Now, you may never have heard of Gregor MacGregor, but you might have heard of his nephew, who was Rob Roy MacGregor, and almost certainly attended the funeral on the island. Yeah,
and just, you know, going off piece a little bit, Strathleven House was kind of built about that kind of time as well.
Was it?
And there's little portholes under the main windows for to have guns.
Muskets.
Muskets out. Because the MacGregors were known to be kicking about the Vale of Leven from time to time as well.
Yeah. A good plan, actually, is when you get off the boat, is to walk the length of the island, just walk the length to Port Bon, and then, well, either on the way there or on the way back, is to take a wee detour to the burial ground, and then you must, if you're keen in photography at all, you have to climb to the summit, and the view over the loch is absolutely north up the loch to Ben Lomond is absolutely fantastic.
That's about 85 metres.
85.
It's a wee hike. But I went a Sunday school trip there one time.
Did you?
There was about, 50 of us, and there's all ages from probably 80 odd to about 8. You know, so it can be done quite easily. Really. Yeah. Inchcialloch, the island was farmed until the early 19th century. Recorded 1800 as producing good wheat and oats. And the ruins of the farm can still be seen. And
there was a church there for 500 years, and that was where people from Balmaha and the surrounding area went to church
every Sunday.
Because it was and
it was consecrated. The same with Cardress. People came from the Vale to Cardress.
For around 130 years, Inchcialloch was an oak plantation as well. Right. And the resulting timber was processed at Balmaha on the site of the Highland Way Inn now.
It was made, I think that was for making wood vinegar, which I hadn't heard of before, and wood tar.
No, I hadn't heard of that.
And wood dye. I didn't realise you could make all these things from oak. But the old oaks are still there that produced all this stuff.
Absolutely, aye. There's trees on virtually all the islands, and they're pretty thick. Yeah. There's also 2 wee islands next to Inchcialloch, and they are Clare Inch, a small island which I think was inhabited way back by the Buchanans, and Cape Inch, and they called that the Kitchen Isle. So I think they probably grew vegetables. Well, they grew vegetables and stuff like that there.
Come back to that next week to continue our discussion about the Loch and its islands. That'll be part 2 of the Loch and its islands, I guess.
Cheers, bye.
If you want more heritage content, go to Clydesider TV and follow them on Facebook and Instagram too.